Oi, yikes, Seahawks fans. That was not how I think any of us wanted that preseason outing to go on a whole lot of different fronts. So I got some injury updates and reactions and depth chart discussions that we got to get to. Got to talk about also for a minute what we're going to do with Jaylen Milroe, given that I think we're pretty clear now on what the hierarchy is of the quarterback room for the Seahawks this season. What's going on, everybody? Christian Pedersen back with another episode of Seahawks Digest, the show that is aware that like this is what football is. It's a physical game. There's going to be injuries, and I don't want to say that like I got to, like why him? It had to have to be him. But man, these bleeping injuries the last couple of days really hurt. And I got T's and P's for Bud Clark. We already talked about Jake Bobo. All of this is just a bummer. And on that note, quick shift. Always got to tell you, like, subscribe, comment, share in case you want to follow along in the bummers for the rest of the season. Let's talk about Mason Richmond and Bud Clark's injuries, both impactful on different fronts and reasons. Bud Clark, I maybe slightly more so just out of he was really blossoming into superstar status. The coach's quotes, not great. Really, I mean, like a broken ankle, it's not going to be good. It's not something that you're just like, oh, you're going to slap a little cast on that. Maybe you can do that with like a broken thumb or wrist or something like that. But to just, I talked about it with the Jake Bobo injury. There's coaches' levels of gray speak that you're, gray zones of speak that you can be like, okay, maybe there's some hope. But when it just comes out and says multiple months, let's plan on having to build this defense without Bud Clark then. And with a look to now, really, I think there are some issues at some depth on that defensive secondary. Also, Mason Richmond, another major long-term injury, a second-year left guard, while the first row of starters for the offensive line seem to be a little bit, secure in their job based off of the first couple of weeks of camp and preseason. There is obviously, like I said, there's freaking injuries in football, man. So to lose anybody on that offensive line that is any amount of depth that could have been serviceable to help your frontline guys, it just makes me nervous. Even if it, like the way that Bud Clark directly impacts, okay, we're going to have to run a little bit different of a setup, have some different guys out there because that guy was going to be out there a ton. It still just makes me nervous. Already seeing some of the shortcomings of the depth at the offensive line position. Just on the subject of depth, this is now what we've got, or this is with Bud Clark obviously coming out. Ty Okada wins that, quote unquote, wins that battle and becomes the main guy. But I'll ask you, like, is this a worry? Is this a concern? Are you worried? Do you have concerns that we will be exploited for some unnecessary and undue passing yard attacks and surrendering of touchdowns? Or are you confident in the combination of coach's play calling, the rest of the guys stepping up, and the front office's ability to go out and get other pieces to come in? And I don't really have a direct answer of like, oh, I'm waiting for X, Y, or Z guy to get grabbed off of waivers. It's not really a spot in the season where you have like a bevy of available free agents. So I doubt there's going to be some corner little pocket universe that John Schneider pulls out like, hey, here's a top 10 safety in the game that we just picked up, the way that Terry and Arnold just kind of wound up appearing on the Seahawks doorstep. So, yeah, like I think that this is, I would, if I had to give this a scale of 1 to 10, how worried am I? I'm 7 out of 10 on this because given the strength of the schedule and what the first couple of months are going to look like, there could be some serious, dogfighty games where we need to make sure we're not surrendering even an additional single yard, let alone a home run ball or two given up over the top. Not to, like I said, not to disparage the rest of the guys, but just what I've got for you. Next topic that I wanted to talk about, like I said, Jaylen Milroe. And saw this article discussing and reacting to his week 2 dud. it's always difficult given where the preseason has gone in the last couple of years of just being truly exhibition tryout football for a bunch of dudes who are all on completely different levels, because sometimes you got the twos going against the threes, sometimes you got the threes going against the ones, sometimes you've got guys who are, they've made the team and they're just out there trying to stay healthy, get some good reps, and other guys who have not made the team and are going just full tilt as they can. Like, it just, that to me, like, I'm trying to throw out the disclaimer of there maybe can be some mitigating factors in why Jaylen Milroe is playing minutes for the Seahawks, but is not being necessarily uber productive. Apologies for the wrong graphic there for a second. But yeah, his numbers yesterday, not great. 6 for 11, 52 yards, 2 interceptions, a 27.7 quarterback rating is really not what you want at any point. And the discussion that this article brings up is saying that Milroe is taking up a spot now for what should be some additional depth at the safety position. And so recreating Bud Clark and Rodney Thomas in the aggregate of just getting multiple guys, like I said, not necessarily a point in the offseason where there is just one dog out there available. Jaylen Milroe has always been an interesting one for my offseason discussions, because I think he's in this weird spot of, he is the third guy behind the defending Super Bowl champion quarterback, but like a really good, like Sam Darnold, very, very good, and somebody who is not in any, there's no whispers of like, well, what about so-and-so? Then you go one behind that. Drew Lock is like a certified serviceable backup. So you'd have to be like, oh, young gun finally growing into himself and like blossoming into this third round pick that we all knew could potentially have some huge upside in order to supplant him. I think there was some thoughts and hopes of like, hey, if Milroe balls out, either Brian Fleury is going to be building in some running scenarios for him as like an RPO type of quarterback to come in wildcatty and just provide a little bit of different look. Or if he plays well enough, maybe this is a guy that we could get some value back from the first team out there in the NFL who ends up sustaining an injury or need, like if the Falcons realize that all of that was a bad decision and want something cheap, they could probably be like, hey, here's some couple pennies on the dollar for Jaylen Milroe. But I didn't see anybody say we should just outright cut him nonetheless. So yet here we are at the point in the season where it's like, well, people are just like, should we cut him? And I think it's an interesting thought experiment to go down the road of, well, if we're going to sign Sam Darnold to a big contract franchise quarterback-wise, no. There's no point in carrying a third quarterback, even if he is some guy who is good and projected to grow into something and we just needed to hold on to him for more years. If there is a chance or a likelihood that we are going to get rid of or going to let Sam Darnold walk as opposed to paying him massive dollars in the same vein of what they did with Russell Wilson. Russell Westbrook been overpaid at every stop. Russell Wilson and Geno Smith, then yeah, like you would want to have the discussion of, well, what then do we do? We need two quarterbacks to be the heirs apparent and have some room for growth. And, if Jaylen Milroe gets 2 more years under his belt, like, is this what what the Packers have been doing, where they've just pumped out really good quarterbacks because they sat and developed for a year? Look what Mendoza's doing. Like, there is a certain science and thought process behind giving a guy, the time to be good. So I just a curiosity. I don't really have like the best answer on what to do with Jaylen Milroe because, like I said, I don't want to over-assign or under-assign value of these sample sizes of 11 passes in the later part of a preseason game, week 2 of the it's really uncomfortable, especially now that there's a little bit of pressure on them to do something with that spot given the injury issues at the other positions. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment, like, subscribe, follow, share, all those other buttons. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.